the community engagement fellowships and the civic digital fellowships, and hopefully you will understand a bit better what the difference between those two types of fellowships is. And you will also hear a bit about the other fellows, we have, some of the fellows we have in the network, and what we think are the success factors for a fellow. And then we will go into the application process, and you will also have time to ask your questions, and we will be answering all of your questions throughout the presentation. Okay, so maybe just to give all of you a bit more information about our EU-funded project. As I was saying, we are implementing the fellowship program on behalf of the EU, but this is not the only thing that we do. We actually have quite a number of activities, and I think probably some of them will also be relevant for you. We have a number of capacity building activities. We just had a storytelling course for civil society organizations and representatives, which is now coming to an end, but we will have other opportunities. We will have a course coming on stress management. We will have a webinar on fundraising. So there are a lot of things coming that might be relevant for you. Obviously, I will skip the fellowship because everything will be about the fellowship program today. In addition to that, we also have civic society hackathons and different civic tech activities, and we just launched, just to make things even more complicated for us and for our beneficiaries, we just launched the call for participation for our 2023 hackathon as well. And there, anyway, I won't go into the details, but we are looking for teams who already have prototypes for digital solutions. But in case you are working in civic tech, I definitely encourage you to have a look at that opportunity as well. We also have a number of activities we are supporting on networking, and we are partnering with other organizations to support different events in either in the Eastern Partnership region or outside of the Eastern Partnership region, but which are relevant for the EAP. And we have a help desk for EU grantees, by the way, in case you or your organization, you are benefiting from EU funding in any way, you can actually make use of this help desk, and I will include in the chat the email address that you can use. We have country-specific communication campaigns. What this means is that we are organizing communication campaigns in different Eastern Partnership countries on different subjects and with different approaches. Right now, we are supporting the EU delegation to Moldova with a campaign to promote the 2% designation mechanism, which allows taxpayers to redirect part of their tax to a civil society organization. And I think less relevant for those here today, we also produce studies and other kinds of analysis and research at the request of the EU on civil society. So these are all the activities that we have in the project. As I was saying, of course, today we will focus on the fellowship program. We don't want to, to go over time, so I will pass the floor to Simon for the take you through the presentation of the fellowship program and to introduce the other members of the team as well.
Great, thank you very much, Monica. Good afternoon, everyone, from me. So I'm Simon Forrester, and as Monica said, I'm part of the team, and my main role is giving overall coordination of the fellowship scheme. Before I start going through a few items, I just wanted to remind you all that you can use the Q&A function if you have questions. So I would suggest that any questions that you have, put them in our Q&A, and we will go through them probably at the end, because I have a feeling that many of your questions might be answered as we go through this presentation. I'm going to give you quite a lot of information, and other colleagues will also be giving you information. So we're hoping that we will already answer all your questions, but we will have a Q&A session right at the end. So if you put your questions in the Q&A, it helps us to keep track of them. So let's start with the basics. As Monica says, we're assuming you're all interested in applying for a fellowship, which is why you're here. But it is good just to make sure that the fellowship is actually the right thing for you, the right product for you, as it were, and to make sure that you choose the right type of fellowship. We have two types of fellowship, the community engagement fellowships and the civic digital fellowships. We're going to look at both types of fellowships in some detail in a few minutes, but I wanted to point out that it doesn't matter which type of fellowship you apply for, the benefits you receive as a fellow are the same. So for example, one of the key benefits is that you get financial support for implementing a small fellowship project. But at this point, it's good for me just to point out to you that, this is not a grant scheme. From time to time, we do have people who make applications to get 5,000 euros to do a project, but they apply as an organization. The fellowships are for individuals. So we make it very clear in our guidelines, you have to be an individual to apply for this. One of the reasons for that, it's not just about getting money to do a project. The fellowships is much more than that. If you're successful to become a fellow, you will also get benefits from access to particular training programs and some coaching. And there are various networking opportunities which come along, which fellows can take advantage of. And of course, once you become a fellow, you join the fellowship alumni, which also has lots of its own advantages that most alumni do. So let me stress that the fellowships are very much for individuals, and therefore individuals who demonstrate, who want to demonstrate civic leadership, or who are already emerging as civic leaders and want to do more and use the fellowship as ways to develop their civic leadership. And these are fellows who want not only to demonstrate leadership, but they want leadership to make change happen in their communities. And the two different types of fellowship offer two different paths, different ways in which you can bring about change within your communities. I'm going to say a few words about the community engagement fellowships, and then Irina will introduce herself and say a few words on the civic digital. So for the community engagement fellowships, these are the fellowships that for those of you who are interested to bring about some kind of change in your community through a range of different kinds of activities. It might be that you want to get involved in policy making. That might be at the national level or local policy making. It might be that you're interested to use the fellowship to collect evidence, to do some research, which might inform an advocacy campaign, or it might inform a policy dialogue that you want to get involved in. Maybe you want to do some research in order to monitor public administration and monitor the use of public funds, how policy is being implemented. Or perhaps fellowship for you might be a tool in which you can build capacity within your community to bring about change. So you could use your fellowship to build capacity of your own organization and other organizations, or a network of civil society organizations, or maybe there's a group of informal grassroots organizations that you're working with that you want to build their capacity. Or maybe there are just individual activists that you want to build their capacity of. So you could use the fellowship for capacity development activities. Or perhaps you can use the fellowship for taking action to make civil society organizations themselves more accountable, and to get help civil society organizations to better answerable to their constituents and to link to their constituents. We also have had fellowships who bring about change by strengthening cooperation and solidarity between civil society organizations. So that's another way in which a community engagement fellowship might be used. In a short while, we'll also be giving you some examples of what previous fellows have done. So you can see some examples of these this type of fellowship in practice, as it were. But before then, let's just quickly look at what's a civic digital fellowship, and Irina will help us with that.
Thank you. Thank you, Simon. Hello, everyone. My name is Irina Velska, and I'm together with Simon, and I also work on the support the fellows within our fellowship program, but I work with the Civic Digital Fellows. So what are the Civic Digital Fellowships? These are the fellowships that are designed specifically to support those who engage in with what we would call a civic tech now. These are broadly, these are IT products or digital solutions designed designed to address some of the specific community needs or other aspects. There are several ways how if you work in this area, if you're part of the civic tech community or open data community, how you can do. And I will start with the one that you can use your fellowship to work on changes in to work on changes at the legislative level, at the level of understanding the society or awareness of the society of your fellows, or even the civil society as itself in your home country, or at the kind of, if you're very if you work at the regional level, at the region at level of the EAP, Eastern Partnership region, to promote and advocate for such things as open data, quality of open data, e-services for citizens, issues related with the budget transparency, which is often also related with opening the data, and so on. Talking about such things, another way for you to use the fellowship would be to work on the data and its quality, and we do have fellows working on the issues of the open data. To give you an example would be you can use your fellowship to make some of the data in your country, make some of the data that is opened by the state or public officials in your country, to make it machine readable, because very often we still face the situation now in the EPA region when the state opens the data, but it's not machine readable and you can't actually use it. So if this is your sphere of expertise, if this is what you normally work on, Civic Digital Fellowship would be a good opportunity to enhance your work and do a bit more in this area. You can also use this for developing civic tech solutions, and these are solutions, again, as we said, that address some of the specific community needs, that leads to improved, to better government accountability, to the improvement of public services, and so on. The list is quite kind of long. I won't stop here, but again, if you are part of the sphere, you understand that the civic tech is the way. So if you have an idea of a solution in mind and you want to try it, and you need some support with this, because of course these are developing of a civic tech solution usually requires some financial, some funding available. So this is one of the Civic Digital Fellowship is a great opportunity for you to try and develop either a prototype or, you know, an MVP and start working on this. Or you can use the fellowship to improve or expand and promote a civic tech solution that you already launched, which means you can use it to add some features to run a proper campaign to get the users. That's in short. I'll be happy to answer your questions later.
Great, thanks, Ira. So I'm hopefully now you're getting an idea of the difference between Civic Digital and the Community Engagement Fellowship, so you should know which one is going to be appropriate for you. If you're still unclear, you should ask questions for us during this webinar. I also stressed a few minutes ago how that this is very much for individuals, and I see Katerina already in the Q&A asked, I will apply as an individual, but should I be representing an organization? So I should just quickly answer that you don't have to. We have many people who are fellows who are individual civic activists, so you don't need to be representing an organization to apply to the fellowships. However, I would also add, though, that as part of the application process, we do ask for you to give us a reference of someone who you work with within civil society or within the civic tech world, because we like to be able to see who you're working with and, if necessary, to follow up with them. So you don't have to be a representative of an organization, but we do ask you to give us a reference. And another part of the application process does ask that if you are a member of an organization, we like to know about that organization and what function you have within that organization. So I hope that answered that. We have a lot of information about the fellowships on our website, and there is a dedicated web portal about the fellows. So if you read the guidelines, you will find links to all these different bits of information you can find about the fellowship. So we will all repeatedly recommend you do that, research this, go and see what other fellows are doing and learn what other people have done in the past and read the guidelines. Here you can see a quick snapshot of the history of the fellowship scheme. It's been going over 5 years now, and up to date, we've selected 147 fellows. So there's a lot of experience there, and there's a lot of lessons learned and good practices that have come out of the fellowships, and you can read all about those through the website. So really make sure you do your research, follow up on these links to learn more what others have done. This infographic, I hope, also helps to demonstrate that this is for anyone interested in the 6 countries of the Eastern Partnership. So for you have to be a citizen of Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Georgia, Moldova, or Ukraine to apply for a fellowship. That's one of the key eligibility criteria. So if you're not a citizen of one of those countries, then you're not eligible for a fellowship. You might be outside of your country of citizenship, in which case you still are eligible. So you still will be able to make an application, even if you're outside your own country at the moment. You need to check yourselves that you meet these other eligibility criteria. We expect you to have reasonable English, because this is a regional program and all the fellows get involved in regional activities at some point. And English is the language of communication that the fellows use for that. So we do ask you to have good English. And within the guidelines, there's an explanation of what it means to have good English, and you can check out the criteria of that. You have to be 18 years old or older, 18 years or older. You can't be a previous fellow, so you can only have a fellowship once. And you have to have a proven track record. So even if you're a young activist, we want to see that what you've been doing, what your track record is. And part of the application process is for you to tell us what your achievements have been up until now, and for you to upload your CV with your concept note. So it's really important you're able to show a proven and track record. So that's really important. And of course, because a main part of the fellowship is to conduct a fellowship project. So you need to show us that you have a really good idea for a fellowship. So, you need to look at what other people have done as fellowships, really to get involved in working out what you can do as a fellow. And to help you a little bit on your way, we're going to look at some examples of some recent fellowships. So fellows who have only recently finished their fellowship projects. And Mariam is going to talk us through some of those examples. So Mariam, let me hand over to you.
Hi, everyone. I hope you hear me well.
Yeah.
And thanks, Simon, for giving me the floor today. I'm Mariam Turashvili, and I'm the regional liaison of the EAP Fellowship Program in the Caucasus. And yes, I'm very excited to feature some of the excellent fellows from the 2021 cohorts who have been distinguished by their hard work, enthusiasm, and passion to benefit to their communities. I'd like to start my story sharing with introducing Olena Jackiewska. a remarkable young professional from the city of Radomyśl, Ukraine. She is a member of the charity fund Radomyśl is Our Home and has been working tirelessly to address the humanitarian needs caused by the war. Her fellowship project aimed at promoting environmental activism in the city by creating public flower gardens and vegetable growing spaces. Also, she mobilized the community and local authorities to make the collective response to the war. To achieve these objectives, she formed up to 500 sets of seeds and distributed them into 17 districts of the city. Also planted more than 1,000 flowers together with the public officials, city residents and their children. Moreover, she created videos and organized the photo contest about this topic. Thanks to her hard work, she motivated residents and IDPs to use every free plot of the land to grow crops and prevent the food crisis in Ukraine. She connected and empowered the community during these hard times, and that's why we are impressed by her exceptional leadership, dedication, and commitment to the community development, and our team regarded her as the best fellow of 2021. To move to another story, I'm thrilled to feature the accomplishment of Krystyna Berliński, who is our fellow from Moldova and the founder of the non-governmental organization Center for Educational and Community Development. Her fellowship action was focused on increasing the capacity of the local NGOs to better address the challenges faced by young people and women. Through the interactive workshops and training sessions in the rural areas of Moldova, she successfully mentored 5 local NGOs in conducting their needs assessment service in order to identify their challenges. As a result of her efforts, those engaged in NGOs improved their capacity significantly, and they are more confident in assessing their community needs. We congratulate to Krystyna on her achievements and believe that her dedication to educational development and community activism will bring great benefits to young people and women in Moldova. Let me introduce some of the change makers from the Caucasus region, and those are the fellows from the civic digital sphere from non-community engagement fellows network. I'm glad to introduce Teona Tomashvili from Georgia, who is passionate about open data and freedom of information. She has been leading the civic tech project Ask.gov.g for years and advocating for more transparent and accountable governments through the use of technology. Her fellowship objectives aimed at strengthening the website Ask.gov.g by adapting international good practices to increase the access to government data. To achieve that, she implemented several activities, including the researching the platform's users, establishing initial partnerships. Also, to share the international expertise, she organized the field trip to London and networked with the global level professionals, also raised her capacity too, and as returned back to Tbilisi, she made advocacy campaigns through various communication and promotional methods. Her dedication and hard work have contributed to advancement of the website and making it a valuable tool for activists, journalists, students, and general public in advocating for more transparent and accountable governments. We believe that she will continue to drive change in this civic tech space. Well, another civic digital fellow I'd like to feature today is Mahamat. Please, Simon, please go back to the previous slide. Mahamat Kekalov from Azerbaijan. He's a social entrepreneur and a disability rights activist from Azerbaijan. And he's been working with people with disabilities over the past 3 years and leads 2 initiatives, Kekalov Adaptive, addressing fashion and clothing issues, and also Keka Maps, addressing the public accessibility issues in Baku. His objective aimed at strengthening the capacities and self-sustainability of Keka Maps as a tool to evaluate and report the accessibility of public spaces in the city. To achieve this, he implemented several activities, including delivering training for Keka Maps users, introducing needs assessment service for people with disabilities, and also he developed the Keka Maps tool and held some meetings with the governmental officials and local authorities to raise the awareness and the sensitivity when it comes to discussing the needs of people with disabilities. As a result, he improved the UI/UX design of the platform, added new features, made it more user-friendly, and also raised the awareness of the local authorities and young people and the public in general about the needs of the community. All in all, we believe that his vision, passion, and innovative initiatives, Mahamat will continue making a significant difference in the lives of people with disabilities in Azerbaijan. Well, last but not least, let me share the story of Grigor, our community engagement fellow from Armenia. Grigor is passionate about civic activism and youth empowerment and serves as the CEO of Armenian Progressive Youth NGO, which is one of the largest youth movements in Armenia. His project objectives are aimed at promoting evidence-based youth policies in Armenia by participatory policy analysis. To achieve that, he conducted various activities, including serving 200 young people and 10 youth policymakers, and organized 5 focus groups with around 50 participants. Additionally, he organized a study trip to Brussels to learn best practices of the evidence-based youth policy development. As a result, he delivered the research document on participation in policy development and decision-making. By the way, if you are interested to see the results of this research document, you can access to our website and download this research document in English and Armenian. This research document is focusing on the political and civic participation of young people at the community and national level, and also includes 22 recommendations that address the gaps that needs identified by him. Well, we believe that Grigor's passion in civic activism and youth participation will make a significant difference in the lives of young people in Armenia. To conclude, as a previous fellow by myself, I'm always thrilled to see so many enthusiastic professionals with different backgrounds, but the same passion to bring the positive social change to their communities and in their countries. So I'm very much looking forward to meeting new people who share the same vision, enthusiasm, and optimism as we do. And I'm more than welcome to see you as the fellows and members of our regional network, reaching up to 150 professionals from the Eastern Partnership region. So that's all from me, and back to you, Simon.
Super, thanks very much, Mariam. So I think you gave us a really nice, colourful picture of 5 of the 147 fellows that we have. You might have noticed we didn't feature here a fellow from Belarus. Belarus is open for these fellowships, as I've mentioned before, but there are some sensitivity issues for some fellows, so we don't like to use them in promotional activities as they've asked us not to. So that's also a point for all of you, that if you have any issues in terms of security or concerns, we don't always have to use your faces on these promotional activities, and we're always interested to hear from you if you need to discuss with us any kind of concerns that you have of that nature. So having heard about these different kinds of fellowships and some examples of the fellows, let's look at more of the application process and how you can be successful in making your application. And I think going through this part of the webinar, probably should also answer a couple of the questions that we have in the Q&A. We have one question there which asks about whether you can apply as a team, which was a nice question to have. You need to apply as an individual for the fellowship. So one of you, if it's 3 of you are interested, have got a good idea, one of you has to take the lead. Mainly because the fellowship is all about the individual, and we ask the individual to be accountable. So we give you some money, and that individual has to be accountable for that money. And we give the individual who is awarded a fellowship opportunities to join training. So we can't always give opportunities to lots of people. So a whole team won't always be have the chance to take up those opportunities. But I would suggest to you that if you have some people you want working with, apply as an individual, and those colleagues can then help you with your fellowship. You can have team members, and within the full application, there's a part where we ask you to explain who is going to help you with your fellowship. So don't let it put you off that you can't apply as a team. You can still work with colleagues. There's also a question about trying to understand more about the kinds of activities that are eligible within the fellowships, and how you might go around budgeting, and what will be the eligible costs for a fellowship. So we'll come on to those in a little bit, but I think most of the answers to those questions you can find in the guidelines. So as you see on the screen here, the application process, we would like to suggest to you that there are 5 stages in the application process. And the very first stage is that you should open the guidelines and read them. You'll see in those guidelines, it explains all about the different types of activities that are eligible, and it explains around the kinds of costs which might be covered by the fellowship. In this webinar, I'm not going to go into all of those details, but suffice to say that there are certain costs which are not eligible and certain activities which are not eligible. So I can mention those briefly, is that fellowships can't be used to buy machinery or to buy equipment. Fellowships can't be used to pay the costs of your usual organizational costs. If you work for an organization, the running costs of the organization. We also have had in recent times fellowship requests which want to devote their benefits or the outputs of their fellowship to kind of military-based activities. They're also not eligible under the fellowship. So please have a look at the guidelines. So there's a lot of information there, but there's not too much to read. I promise you that it will only take you less than an hour to read the guidelines. And I think most of the answers are there. Michaela, you asked a question about types of activities and budget and other costs. At the end of our presentation, we can come back to some of those issues and perhaps give you a bit more of an answer if what I've just said is not enough for you. So reading the guidelines, we suggest, is the first stage, and it will be a great help to you if you read the guidelines. Secondly, you need to be thinking about what will be in your concept note, because the concept note is the actual first part of the application submission. We ask you to prepare a very simple concept note. It's about 2 pages in length. But before you go online and fill out the concept note form, you should really be thinking about what you want to achieve from your fellowships, who will be the beneficiaries of your fellowship. Think a little bit about the time scale of whether it's feasible to undertake some activities that you're planning or thinking of within 6 or 8 months, because 6 to 8 months is our normal time frame for a fellowship. So you need to be thinking about the concept note. So read the guidelines, think about what you want to put into your concept note, then go online, and through our website, you can find the application process online, and you'll be able to choose either you apply for a community engagement fellowship or you apply for a civic digital fellowship, and you go through the concept form online. The questions are simple. The first part, we ask you your personal details. The second part, we're asking about your motivation to be a fellow, your experience in civil society. And the third part is asking you what you want to achieve with your fellowship. What will be the purpose of your fellowship project? So you can look at the guidelines and explains the concept note and the questions that you'll be asked. So really prepare yourself before you go online. We receive a lot of applications where the concept note has been filled in really quickly and probably quite lazily, I would say, because these are the applications which score really badly. They're not filled out correctly. Lots of information is missing. Not enough thought went into the answer. So it's really important to be prepared before you complete your concept note online. Once you've submitted your concept note, the concept note will be evaluated, and we have a selection committee which looks at the concept notes and scores them. And in a while, we're going to learn a little bit about how the concept notes are scored, how they're evaluated. And then we will inform you whether you are successful or not. And I have to tell you that this process is competitive. So only about 30% of all of the concept notes which are submitted to us go to the next stage, are successful. So it means nearly 70% actually fail at that first stage. So you really need to pay attention to the quality of your concept note. But if you're successful, you'll get information from us. We'll inform you that you're successful, and we will then ask you to move into what we call the incubation period. And this is where you'll need to fill out a full application. And during the full application process, this is where you fully develop your fellowship project idea. So during the full application, we expect you to be able to give some details about the activities that you want to undertake, and there corresponding will be a budget which you'll need to upload to show the costs of those activities. There is more information about the budgeting, and there's a template for the budget which we provide to you. So in advance, you'll be able to learn all about how you go about filling in your full application. So for the concept note, you don't need to worry about detailed description of activities or budgeting. That will come in the future if only you are successful to pass the concept note stage. Of course, though, it is important to be thinking about it now. Once you've filled in your full application, you submit your full application, and you also will need to upload your supporting documents. So we will check that you are eligible for the fellowship. So we ask you to upload some supporting documents, such as a copy of your passport or ID to prove your age and your citizenship. It might be necessary to upload reference letters that we can check the references. During the concept note, you will have already uploaded your CV. But with the full application, you upload a number of supporting documents as well as a budget and an activity plan. And all of the details about what you need to upload are in the guidelines. So just to recap here, there are 5 steps in the process. At step 3 is when you submit your concept note online. Only if your concept note is successful will you be invited to go to step 4 and 5. So the important question really is, how do you make sure that you move to step 4 and 5? How can you be sure that your concept note will be well regarded, will score well, will be evaluated well? Well, another of our colleagues, Elena has some kind of tips for you to guide you a bit on what you should look for in completing your concept note. So, Elena.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Simon. Yes, my name is Olena Medvedenko. I'm regional liaison in Ukraine, Moldova, and Belarus, and I will work with fellows who will be from my region. And yes, I want to go quickly through the preparing your concept note. It's the main stage now, because you are applying and you are thinking what you will describe in your application. And on this stage, we really want to know only who you are and what experience you have and what is your motivation and what the purpose of your fellowship. That's why while preparing your application, please go again to the guidelines and make sure that you are eligible to succeed, because we will really check in it, maybe not on this stage sometimes, but it will be not good if you will pass to the next stage and then we will know that you are not eligible. So please go to the guidelines and be sure that you can apply. Also, be sure that you have these proof documents, that you will be able to send us your passport, your certificate of knowledge English, and also nomination letter from the organization. So be sure that you will be able to prepare this in the next stage, even if you are applying now on only your concept note. Then you can go to our website, web page, and there you will find link for this concept note. You can fill it free. The data will be saved before you will push the button apply. So you can rewrite it, you can sync, you can come back with some new ideas, and then when you will send it, we will receive it. So don't forget to add your CV, because we already have some applications where people don't apply CV, and it's very important because we want to know who you are and what is your experience, and you can show it in your CV, because the application is a rather short variant of the full application. And also be clear on your achievements, demonstrate your leadership potential, and tell us your personal development ambitions. So it's a personal fellowship. We will look on your project, yes, what you want to implement, but we will also look who you are and what's your ambitions and what you want to achieve yourself, how you want to develop yourself. Applications which contribute to the goal of 2023 European Year of Skills will get bonus points. It doesn't mean that everybody should add something from this, but if your idea is connecting with this, you will get 1+ bonus during the evaluation process. And next slide, please, Simon. Yes. And the main is, yes, if you should be sure that your fellowship idea is good, that someone needed. It's not just your ambitions to implement something, that your idea will contribute to the society or will improve something in the public relations, anything that can be achieved during the period of the fellowship. So you also should understand that you will have only 8 months, up to 8 months to implement your idea, and you will have up to 5,000 euros to implement your idea. So when you write your application, be sure that you will be able to achieve what you are planning during this period and using the amount of money that we can grant you. So make sure the purpose of your fellowship fits the priority SAMs and types of actions. So every time you're thinking about the application, you can go to the guidelines and read if this idea is eligible. About just a little about evaluation process, you will be scoring through 5 main criteria. So be sure that every criteria you provide us information about it, about your motivation, about your experience, about read outcomes clear, write the outcomes clear, that your idea is achievable and your fellowship justified. So every point will be counted, and if you will score more than 11 points, you will go to this next stage. But be sure that every criteria is clear, will be clear for us. So if you write something, do it clear and be sure that it will be understandable while reading. I think that's all.
Great. Yeah, thank you very much, Elena. I would also just, before moving on from this slide, just to emphasize again that because the fellowships are about you as an individual, this is why we're so interested in your background, your CV, your experience, your motivation. So it's not just about what activities you want to do. We're really keen to understand who you are, what motivates you, which is, as Elena said, it's really important that you upload a CV. But please make sure your CV really demonstrates who you are. I can give you an example. We had in previous times, we received an application with a CV. When you open the CV, you clearly see the applicant is a qualified chef and that the applicant has worked in senior positions in hotel and a restaurant. So yes, the applicant demonstrated leadership, but there was 0 on the CV related to civil society or to civic tech. So you can imagine that the applicant didn't score so well in terms of their experience and motivation. So, you know, please make sure that your CV really tells us about you in terms of your civic tech background or your civil society background. So let's kind of bring this to a conclusion. Again, just to emphasize that the concept note is the first part of the application. So the first thing to do is to be successful with your concept note. And then if you are successful, there'll be an incubation period. And during that time, you'll have a few weeks to work on a full application. And during the incubation period, we also offer ourselves, so myself and Irina and Monica and Mariam and Olena, we are here also to help you during the incubation period. So it might be that you have particular questions or issues while you develop your full applications that you want to ask us about. So we're available for that during the incubation period. So get through the concept note, be successful there, and then when you develop your full application, you have a bit more time and you are able to ask us some more questions to develop your full application. So in terms of a timeline, we're at 5th of April today, so we're having our webinar. The closing date for the concept notes is the 21st of April. So you have just over 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks before the closing deadline for the concept notes. So that's not so long, but as I said, the concept note itself is pretty easy to fill in. It's quite short, but you need to be ready for it. You need to make sure it's a really strong and successful concept note. After the 21st of April, we'll be evaluating all of the concept notes, and we will be informing you of those who are successful. And of course, we also inform you if you are not successful, and we generally give some tips for those who are not successful. We give a general, some general feedback on what the problems might have been. But we hope that all of you who joined the webinar today, that you will be successful, which means you'll go into the incubation phase, which is April, May, and 26th of May will actually be the deadline for the full application. So those of you who are invited to make a full application, you'll have to complete that by the 26th of May. After the 26th of May, there's an evaluation again. So the full applications are evaluated. And then finally, we hope that in July, that the fellowships will be awarded and you'll be able to begin implementing your fellowship perhaps in July. We can't be precise on the dates here because it depends a little bit on the numbers of applications we receive and how long it takes to process them. But that's the timeline for you. I think we've finished now in terms of what we wanted to present. And now it's just a question of whether you're answering your particular questions. We get regular questions, and on our website, on the fellowship pages, you will see that there is a section on frequently asked questions. So from time to time, we update that list. Here you will see some of the kind of regular questions we get about eligibility and about the application process. Hopefully we've answered most of these questions now, so you know that there is an age limit, that you have to be at least 18. But there's no upward age limit. I think you know the countries targeted. It's the 6 countries of the Eastern Partnership. You can only apply for one type of fellowship. So you can only make one application. So you have to be clear on what type of what fellowship you want to apply for. You know that you're applying as an individual, not as an organization. You're applying as an individual. Questions about the application process. These are some of the common questions that we get. Sometimes people say, is it possible to make an application offline? Well, we don't encourage that because we want all of the applications to be made online. But we do understand that there are maybe some applicants who have some difficulty or in a situation where they really can't make an online application. If you read the guidelines, there's advice there about what you need to do if that's the case. So please read the guidelines about making an application if you have a problem doing it online. How long should my responses on the concept note be? Well, I've mentioned that it's only about 2 pages. So the responses are usually short. And most of the questions have an answer box where you're limited in the number of words which you can use. So you have to be quite concise. So you need to open up the online form to have a look to see how those questions are asked and what the limits are. You only need to submit your CV with your concept note. We don't need any other supporting documents at the time of the concept note, just the CV, that's all. I've already mentioned that there will be an evaluation of concept notes. So what happens next is that you will hear from us whether you're successful or not to move on to the next stage, the full application process. If on this occasion we have this question sometimes that if my concept note isn't selected, can I do it again? For the concept note, you can't. For this call, you can only make one application. So you do this for the concept note. And we hope that you are successful, but if you're not, we will tell you, we'll give you a little bit of general feedback, and then we would encourage you to apply the next time, because we expect to have a second call for fellowships this year in the autumn of 2023. So you will get another chance, and we also hope that next year, 2024, that there will be another call. So hopefully there will always be another chance for those of you who are not successful this time around, but you can only make one concept note submission. So questions, let's see in the Q&A if we've answered everything. I would also invite my colleagues, I don't know if Monica or Irina or Elena or Mariam, if they have any additional things they would like to add, welcome to jump in. I'll just look at the Q&A, and there's a question asking, is it mandatory to have an idea ready to go, or is it enough to apply with a problem, just a general kind of idea about it? Well, indeed, in the concept note, you do not need to give details about a fellowship project. You just have to give what will be the purpose of your fellowship, what you want to achieve through your fellowship. So you don't need to give the details about a project. So indeed, expressing what a problem is and that you want to use the fellowship to address that problem, to find a solution for it, would be okay for the concept note. That will be okay. And then during the full application, you'll have to develop a full project. And as I've mentioned, during the incubation phase, you can ask our advice on that. So we're open to answering questions about how you might develop a project to answer a particular problem. So at this stage, you don't need to have a full question. Did we answer all of the questions? I think there might have been a final one that
I think we addressed everything. Irina was providing an answer to the last one on the Europass CV format. So, and whether there is a maximum number of pages for the CV. I don't know if we want to address that also, Simon or Ira.
Well, I would recommend whoever, who was interested in that, again, they can just follow the link that we have in the guidelines and to read about the guidelines about a CV that we provide, because that gives quite a lot of detail actually, and that's probably the best thing to do. In terms of how many pages of a CV that you can upload, there's no problem for us. You can imagine that a selection committee that has to look through a 100-page CV will not be that impressed actually. So you might want to keep it quite concise, but it's up to you. But the best thing to do is to look at the guidelines, follow the link about CVs, and there's lots of advice about how to write a good CV, what to put in your CV. That's what I would recommend. Yeah,
I would also emphasize, try to be concise, because Simon was joking now, partly, but we've had situations where we had CVs that were going on for pages and pages and pages. That's definite, something is wrong in that case, right? So we want you to be very to the point and tell us and as Simon was mentioning previously as well, try to focus on what is relevant for you as someone engaged in civic activities, not in general. So yeah. Also Ira is also writing that it has to be short and sweet. It is quite, you can use the Europass format if you want to use that format. Someone was asking. It's up to you which format, as long as it makes sense and it's very clear.
May I jump here with one question? I have a question to the attendees. Could you please raise your hand if you plan to apply for Civic Digital Fellowship? Because if I have, okay, great.
There is one, okay, 1, 2.
Okay, good. Then whatever I'm gonna say, it's gonna make sense to you. Okay. I know that for Civic Digital Fellows, it's usually a bit difficult because some of you may come from whenever preparing CV and recommendations, some of you may come from this IT background and you don't have much of the civic engagement, and then you get lost and what am I supposed to put there? Please do not feel that, like just because you're not formally a member of some civil society organization, never been this or whatever, that you cannot apply. If you apply as a civic digital fellow, it is important for us to see that you actually understand what you're going to be working on. That's why if you want to develop a product, it's good to see that you actually either understand the topic you want to address as a professional, as a field expert, or you have a good understanding of the coding, or you have the understanding of managing and leading IT projects. So basically that your CV and your recommendation in this case just need to prove and to show that you kind of know what you're going to do. That is the point. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Irina. I was looking at the chat. There's a comment or a question from Elena there saying whether it's possible to get any kind of coaching or mentoring support about your concept note. You could, if we could allow you, we could actually, if you want to, you could talk about that now. If you want to raise, to say what your issues were, Elena. But generally, what I would say is, I think there's a lot of information available about different types of fellowship and examples of what the fellows have done in the past. And I have to say that both Mariam and Elena are both fellows, and they're with us on the team. And I know that they're often very kind to respond to questions that they receive. So you might want to send an email to Elena. You'll get the email contacts in a minute on the screen to ask about. But we don't offer a service where we can give mentoring and coaching to everyone who wants a concept note, unfortunately. And I mean, this is a competitive process, so you have to do your best. But you could, if you want to ask us more about that now, we can open up your microphone.
There's one more question that
I was about to say that's more for you.
Creating online education course can be digital. Creating online course is a digital, but it's not about the developing a civic tech solution. Online course is not a civic tech solution, unless it is an educational mobile app or something like this, or like online game. Then it is more like of a civic tech solution. But in any, just let's say a regular online course is more about building capacities of a specific audience. And what Simon mentioned, it's closer to the community engagement fellowship than to civic digital fellowship.
Maybe
by
just to add here from our experience. So by the way, if you choose Civic Digital Fellowship and we like your application, but we think it's more of a civic engagement fellowship, we're not going to reject it on that basis. We will just say, we will get back to you to say, okay, we pre-selected your concept note, but by the way, we changed your category to community engagement fellowship. So you don't have to worry too much about that. I can also tell you from the experience of the other calls that it's more likely for people to say that they're coming up with a civic digital fellowship application, only for us to realize that it's more of a community engagement than the other way around. So it happened a lot more often that we were moving people from civic digital to community engagement than the other way around. But again, it's not something that you need to worry about too much.
Great, thank you, Monica. Thank you, Irina. Thank you for those questions. I think that we've answered everything, and I don't see any more questions coming in. So we're probably going to come to a close. If anyone else wants to ask any more, please do. In the meantime, you'll see that on the screen here, as I mentioned, that you can see the emails for Mariam and Elena. If you need to contact them, then that's how you do it. And I would remind you again, please read the guidelines. Most of the answers are there. And also I wanted to mention that after this webinar, you will get an email from us asking you to complete a really simple little survey to let us know what you thought about this webinar, because it's really helpful for us to know how to do these webinars in the future. So, you know, there's always room for some improvement. So it's always nice to hear from you on that. So please respond to our very quick survey about this webinar. So thank you all very much indeed. Anyone else from the team would like to say anything more?
No, just good luck to everyone.
Good
We're looking forward to reading your concept notes. Make them short and really good. Think of us when you write. Okay, good luck, everyone.
Thank you all. Yeah, good luck.